Hi, and welcome to Mature Meanders. I'm Tom, and Karen is upstairs sleeping. And I'm at the rooftop bar of the Hyatt Place Sukhumvit 1 in Bangkok, Thailand. And Mature Meanders is our attempt to document our travels and our growth as travelers, as seniors and now retired or semi retired seniors. So there's a whole story about how we found ourselves to be in Thailand. We had never really traveled that much, and I don't think we've ever taken a vacation longer than 7 days. But we're reaching an age where we said if we're going to do some traveling, we need to really think about it. So 2 years ago, we started thinking about it, and we started following some channel providers on YouTube. The ones we followed most were Retirement Travelers and Grounded Life Travels. We watched a lot of their content, and we watched a lot of content from other people. And it seemed like a trip to Thailand would be the first place we should really hit once we were free and able to spend 2 or 3 weeks in a place. So a year ago, May 2024, we committed to a date, which is now, and we started fleshing things out. While we were doing that, we were getting a comfort level because we're careful people, and this seemed like a radical thing for us to do. Taking the longest trip of our lives by far at our oldest age. So it began to take shape. Karen also got credit cards that would allow us to get points. And in fact, we're going to be here like 8 or 9 nights, and the whole thing is being paid for on points. We first set the dates of the major trip in and out. At some point, we decided that we would fly from Newark, New Jersey to Singapore, and then a short hop to Bangkok. But on the return trip, we felt that we might as well take an extra day in Singapore, just since we had to pass through it anyway. Just do some touristy stuff, get the feel for it. It's a relatively expensive place to stop, so we really weren't going to spend that much time there. So the basics were laid out. We also decided that because Karen wanted to see the elephants, we would have to go to Chiang, which is also in Thailand. And we added Kuala Lumpur because why not? It's on the way back to Singapore. So we're going to spend 4 days at Kuala Lumpur, 4 days at Chiang Mai, the rest of one night in Singapore, and the rest of it right here in Bangkok. So it all began to take shape, and why not? Now, I'm now 69. Karen is 63. We're both in good shape, as much as, we're not super fit or anything, but we're healthy and we can travel. No excuses. And some of the vloggers talk about setting the rest of your retirement years and thinking of it in terms of 3 pieces. The GoGo years, where you're unrestricted, maybe you have some money, your health is good, you can travel, you can do what you want. The slow go years, where maybe you're beginning to slow down and you need to be a little bit more conservative, but you can still travel, but you're going to pick your fights and pick your destinations more carefully. And then the slow go years, which is basically, maybe you're not well enough to travel anymore. So we are better late than ever. At age 69, we are in our go-go years now. So that's how we got here. I wanted to talk a little bit about the flight. I mean, the longest flight we had ever been on is New York to London, and that was when we were newlywed, and we've been married for 38 years. So the idea of spending such a large amount of time on a plane is rather daunting. And we took this trip on May 5th, 2025. And it looks something like this: 18 and a half hours from EWR Newark to Singapore, something like 2.5 hours from Singapore to Bangkok. And by the time you put the layover in there, it's about 24 hours from the time you push back from the gate to the time you get off the last plane. Now, if you've been following the news lately, Newark Airport has had some problems. And of course, we're flying out right in the middle of it. You can't control things. And I learned a little bit more today about the nature of the problems at Newark Airport. So a lot of it stems from a week ago, I believe, where there was an incident where the controllers were in a position where they had aircraft in the air and their radar went out. And to make things worse, their communications were very spotty. Now, that would be utterly traumatic for the person who was responsible for the safety of these planes, knowing they were blind and in some cases they couldn't talk either. Um, I could imagine that would freak you out even if you were a seasoned controller. They were also understaffed, as is most of the air traffic control facilities. And making it a bit more complicated was the transfer of multiple um, regional facilities from Long Island, where there was a large group, and consolidating other groups into Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So air traffic control is generally a disorganized mess right now. But our travel, we are scheduled to leave Monday, May 5th, 9:35 a.m. from Newark. Of course, since we were all nervous and things, we were up at 2 o'clock in the morning, which we didn't really need to be. But everything went fine. We got to the airport, we got on the plane, 9:35, they closed the doors, we pushed back from the gate, and we were told that there's going to be a 1 hour queue getting a clearance for takeoff. Okay. There's plenty of entertainment stuff, and it was okay. We did take off, and it never really occurred to me just how long a flight this is. Um, Now, Singapore Airlines has a good reputation, and we were in premium, premium economy, which means it's a step up. The seats are bigger. The configuration of the Airbus A350 is 2 seats, 4 seats, 2 seats, whereas on the shorter haul flights on the same plane, they do 3 seats, 4 seats, 3 seats. That gives you about 2 or 3 extra inches on the width. The seats also recline deeper. So in theory, we should be okay, right? So we watched a movie. We had lunch. Their food is very good. And, we're in being domestic flyers on occasion, you don't even get food anymore. Their food was very good, even in premium economy. Watch another movie, and I saying to myself, "Oh yeah, this is nothing," And then I realized to myself, this is 5 hours that we've done, and it's 18 and a half hours in the air. But it was uneventful, and I came to appreciate the marvels of engineering. The A350 Ultra Long Range ULR has extra fuel tanks in the plane, and that's a common thing. Whenever you're going to make a long range plane, you add more fuel tanks. But some of the other planes did it in really questionable ways, such as adding fuel tanks to the cargo hold and taking away that space. But the A350, sometimes called the A359, was built from the ground up with those fuel tanks integrated into the plane. And it just amazes me that this plane can go almost 10,000 miles without refueling. And so that was fine. And now, we did not sleep. Karen is a much better sleeper than I am. And on the 18 and a half hour flight, I think maybe we got a couple hours sleep at the end when we were just too exhausted to do anything. But it was fine. Going through Singapore, easy layover, not too long, not too short. One thing I found different about the way Singapore handles their, safety inspection, right, is that even though we had never left the terminal facility, we never left security. They still ran a security check on everybody at the gate, not entering at the main area. So metal detectors, all that kind of stuff. Before we left, we took this flight on a Monday. On the Sunday before, we filled out the TDAC, which is the Thailand basically quick form immigration process, which is available to many countries that are exempt from needing a visa. We did that online, and when we eventually did find our way to Thailand, it was simple, and the queue wasn't long. So that's where we stand now. Our trip begins in earnest tomorrow. We're going to visit the temples. Got a lot of things planned, but it's just because we haven't traveled, it doesn't mean we can't. We're fortunate that the kids are grown. There's enough money. There's enough health. And so we're going to try to make the most of it. And hopefully this trip to Thailand will be the first of many.